A remarkable engineering feat is underway at one of Broadway's most iconic venues, the Palace Theater.
In New York City's theater district, a performance of another kind is taking place. Finding new space for development demanded creativity.
It was really critical to lift the theater in order to unlock that ground floor.
Making sure the landmarked Palace Theater's auditorium stays intact demanded meticulous engineering and intricate hydraulics. But day one of the lift began with just the push of a button.
And the post pushes it up. So the top plate goes up, then you lock the bottom nuts down, and then you lower the top plate and do it again. It's very slow inchworm type process.
The theater itself a Broadway mainstay since it opened in 1913.
Vaudeville was in its golden era.
First home to vaudeville performances.
Landmark Palace Theater is getting a lift, literally. The building being lifted to make way for commercial space on the ground level. And it's a meticulous endeavor that took 5 years of planning and will give the historic site a long future. Here's Lauren Glassberg.
Curtain up means the show's about to start, but today in Times Square, it's theater up, as in a theater actually being lifted right off the ground.
The theater lift consists of, we have 34 specifically placed what we call lifting posts.
Those hydraulically controlled steel posts essentially push the theater up. A 5-foot thick concrete cushion protects the theater from below.
All of the lifting posts were 100% custom made for this installation and lift.
It will take 6 to 8 weeks to raise the Palace Theater 30 feet. The lift only moves about a quarter inch an hour. The theater will then undergo a $50 million renovation, a small part of this more than $2.5 billion project in time.
Broadway and beyond tonight, and a major milestone for a unique Times Square construction project, the slow and steady effort to lift a massive Broadway theater 30 feet.
Must be protected. Obviously, we're in a construction site directly through the space here.
We're getting this first look at the big footprint where construction crews toiled for months to make a century-old Broadway theater appear to vanish, but not by knocking it down. It's now up above, raised 30 feet, fully intact.
And then
walked us around the new TSX Broadway with high-rise hotel. The work began by detaching the palace from its foundation, then ringing it with 6 feet of concrete. 34 high-tech columns worked to inch all 14 million pounds of it up and up slowly.
Just lifts very smoothly. It's like a very small, strong piston.
To see what's possible these days will lift your spirits. In Times Square, Dave Carlin, CBS 2 News.
Broadway, the most famous theatre district in the world. Glitz, glamour, the roar of the grease paint, the smell of the crowd.
Taking a 100-year-old landmark theater and raising it up 30 feet.
The theater lift consists of lifting a 1,700.
That's right, more than just the curtain is being raised in this plan to build the biggest and most cutting-edge entertainment venue in Times Square. So if you're wondering how and why an historic theatre is being lifted nearly 10 metres into the air, then grab some popcorn and take your seat. Right, so that's the why. Now, what about the how? First, the existing tower was partly demolished and a structure was put in place to support the remaining floors. The basement was then made ready for the lift, and the steelwork above the theatre was cleared to give it room to move into. One of the most challenging parts of the project was clearing the theatre's basement to allow for the installation of some 34 specially designed lifting posts, while not undermining the 48-storey building that remained overhead.
Come in there, you have to basically take the overburden out, chop a little bit of the rock, but you can't go too deep because you can't undermine the existing foundations, and then put a drill rig in there after.
The first phase began in January when it was lifted just over 7 centimetres to test the equipment. Tilt meters ensured the theatre stayed level during the lift, and an array of monitors were in place to spot any damage as it rose up through the structure.
And that was the big.
Were little devices that were wired on each jack. And that went back to like a main hub. So as we were pushing up, that we weren't getting one area was going faster than another, pushing the theater out of plumb.
As well as the heavy-duty equipment, a small army of specialists worked on the lift. 3 different teams of structural engineers were employed to focus on the foundations, the lifting apparatus, and the theatre itself. Once the team was happy with how the equipment had performed, the main phase began on February 14th of 2022. The hydraulic jacks lifted the theatre box in 12cm strokes. After each of these movements, a team of consultants performed a thorough inspection of the structure before any work continued. After 7 painstaking weeks, the lift was finally completed on April 5th.
It was, just an awe-inspiring moment for myself, the team, the consultants.
Now the theatre's been hoisted into position, it's getting a facelift from a theatre to an auditorium that's been restored to its former glory.
That we were able to do this and do it safely.
Here's a standing ovation. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a ticket to the hottest show in town.
We started with the theater right here, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Almost 30 feet from where it is today.
Yeah.
And today, look where it is.